From boasting high standards of punctuality and also talking about IndiGo standard time, IndiGo Airlines has since suffered from hundreds and hundreds of flight delays and flight cancellation.
I got cancelled, my luggage is stuck and I'm stranded over here since yesterday.
The charges are 40,000, 50,000. IndiGo में कोई response, कोई भी उनके पास answer नहीं है.
We're here since 9 a.m. so I guess we've been here for at least 3 hours and it seems going to be like way more.
Impacting hundreds and even thousands of people, even people's lives, people's commitments, and people's functions and festivities as well. It has actually disrupted the lives of thousands of passengers in just a matter of few days. Many of the passengers lost a lot of prominent engagements which the passengers were going for. They were lost. A lot of students, they mismanaged their examination schedule as well, which is why a lot of examination students were not able to give in time, and which is why there was huge loss, not just to the passengers, but to the whole economy as well, just because of this fiasco of IndiGo Airlines. Now, the core reason which was being given for so many flight delays, hundreds of flight delays and hundreds of flight cancellation was shortage of crew and shortage of pilots.
As the airline struggles with severe operational disruptions.
Now, this is not all of a sudden, and it is not that IndiGo did not see it coming. IndiGo just delayed the inevitable. This was going to happen anytime soon because the rules which everyone is talking about, that is FDTL rules or FDTL norms, that is flight duty time limitation norms, they kicked in last year itself. So it's not new for IndiGo, it's not new for other airlines as well, and it's not that they did not see it coming. Everyone knew that FDTL norms would be kicked in, and after they would be kicked in, there will be huge shortage, at least 25% of shortage of manpower or of workforce with IndiGo and with other airlines as well, which is why they need to take corrective steps, they need to overhire, and they need to compensate for the deficiency. But when the final phase took off last month, IndiGo just couldn't bear it. Now, IndiGo, which is kind of just part of an oligopoly, handles around 60% of the domestic traffic in India. Now, this is massive because it is more than 50%, and it is the most dominant position in the domestic aircraft industry or domestic airlines industry. And as a result, punctuality in IndiGo collapsed, and only 19.7% of the flights were on time on December 3rd of 2025. Now, all these scenarios, all these things pose a very big question mark on the airlines in our country, on DGCA, and on these FDTL rules, and how the government came up with these rules, and how implementation of these rules would have been done, and how compliance of this would have been done or ensured by the major partners of this particular industry or major shareholders of this particular industry. All these things we'll be trying to discuss in today's session, along with a brief discussion on India's aviation sector. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh, and you are watching Perspective. Now, answering the first question first, what is this FDTL norms or what are these FDTL rules? Now, simply, it is flight duty time limitation rules, which were launched by the DGCA. Now, these are the norms which are introduced for fatigue mitigation measures in our country. Introduction of that. Now, if you have to see these changes, you can see in three broad respects. One is weekly rests. It has increased from 36 hours to 46 hours, of course. Second is the night landings, which are now capped at 2. Earlier, they were capped at 6. So down from 6, now they're capped at 2. And alongside this, the definition of night hours has been extended by 1 hour. Now, the rules were originally planned for June 2024. But IndiGo Airlines, alongside several other airlines as well, had a complaint against it. And they opposed the immediate rollout, and they argued that they needed more crew and a phased transition from this stage to the next stage so that these organizations can hire people as well. Now, in order to have a phased transition, DGCA agreed that we will be implementing the rules in 2 phases. One is on July and another is on November, after a Delhi High Court's directive. Now, the first phase, which was longer weekly rests, here IndiGo handled it relatively well. But the second phase, which was stricter night time limits, this is where IndiGo was hit disproportionately. See, we need to understand one thing about IndiGo. IndiGo is a low-cost aircraft carrier in our country, which means low-cost budgeted people. They travel through IndiGo, or even common class, they travel through IndiGo. Now, in order to understand this question, that why only IndiGo was hit and why other airlines did not get affected because of these changes, we'll have to dig a much more deeper picture. Now, for example, IndiGo is having a 60% share of the domestic aircrafts in the country, which means 60% of the flights flown are the flights of IndiGo, which in actuality can be a very close thing to monopoly as well. So basically, why IndiGo was hit harder than the other airlines? Simple reason. The first one is massive scale and high frequency network. Now we all know that IndiGo operates through large number of routes in one single day. It's having a large network and the highest number of daily flights in India. Now, the second reason is heavy late night and early morning operations. Now, IndiGo runs a significant number of late night operations and early morning flight segments as well, and most of this was affected by the stricter rest requirements under the new FDTL norms. That is a second set of reason. Another set of reason is that extremely high crew and aircraft utilization. Now, IndiGo's operation model is a very lean model, which relies on squeezing maximum utilization from the crew also, maximum utilization from the aircraft as well. And this basically leaves a little slack in the system when the new regulations reduce permissible flying hours. Now, talking about the scale of disruption and the decline on-time performance. Now, that is very critical for us to understand the entire scenario. Now, in November itself, IndiGo has recorded around more than 1,200 flight cancellation. This alone amounts to thousands and thousands crores of loss of public. Now, definitely IndiGo is saying that we'll compensate the public, but of course, how will you compensate for the time? How will you compensate for the loss of that examination which a student has lost? Or how will you compensate for an individual who was going to his or her parents' funeral, and how do you compensate for that funeral happened without the child? Now, all of these questions are still lingering behind, and there are no answers to that also. Now, in this particular situation, the government has intervened and DGCA has also intervened. DGCA is Director General of Civil Aviation, which is responsible for welfare of civil aviation people in the country. Now, according to this DGCA itself, IndiGo has started corrective measures automatically. So basically strengthening crew planning and rostering, that is one. Improving coordination with the ATC air traffic control on the airports and airports as well. Third one is enhancing turnaround and disruption management. Now, while all this fiasco in IndiGo was going on, several pilot bodies also came up to the forefront, and they said that the working conditions in IndiGo were unbearable and pilots were made to work extra hours because IndiGo worked on a lean-based model, which means it's a low-cost carrier for the public. It won't carry enough weight in the aircraft. It would save each and every penny possible where it could be saved. See, one final question which might come to your mind is that one actual problem of this entire issue is the lack of manpower, is the lack of crew, is the lack of pilots. But what if pilots from other companies can be poached by IndiGo and then they start working for IndiGo on an overnight basis, and then things could start doing well? But the problem is this hiring is not very easy. If you're poaching someone from some other airlines, and even if the person wants to join the airline, a pilot would have to give a notice period of 12 months at least. And a co-pilot needs to give an experience of 6 months each, which is why technical requirement for the demo is very, very huge. So now we must be very, very clear that what is this fiasco of IndiGo, what is this FDTL norms, and eventually what caused the problem, and why IndiGo initially was non-compliant but eventually became very superbly compliant. Because initially IndiGo had an upper hand, and IndiGo felt that they could let the government not pass the law or not pass the bill at all, which is why that the bill might not see the day of the light. See, many experts from different quarters are saying that this is what happens when you give entire power of the entire airlines industry just in hands of few. Then such type of crisis is bound to happen, where common man, the normal people of the country would suffer. Eventually, the point is that politicians and officers, they should work in tandem. They should work hand in hand in order to ensure the common goal of both of them, that is the best for their country, the best for their motherland, the best for your family, and best for yourself as well. And this is not just with IndiGo. It has put the entire airlines of India into a question mark. Because if India is holding 60%, what about the other flight carriers? Achha, by the way, the reason IndiGo's flight delays was more and other flight carriers was not more is, first of all, the other flight or the other flight carriers or the other airlines company, most of them have grounded their aircrafts. Most of them have grounded their planes due to refueling, due to other stuff as well. A lot of them have not been on the sea, which is why it is very difficult for me to accommodate you in this particular part. So we hope that the swift action is taken at the earliest. Those who lost their money, those who lost a lot of things, they should be compensated well by the company. And eventually, this type of situation should not arise. And all the rules and regulations should be definitely met by individuals in our country. That is what needs to be ensured. I hope you gained a new perspective from the session. Do let me know what are your views surrounding it. All the very best. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.